What's up guys, Ryan here. Gonna make a little command prompt tutorial, so let's just jump right in. Okay, so to open up command prompts, we're gonna press the Windows key and R on our keyboard. It's gonna bring up our run, and then we're just gonna type CMD, and boom, there we go. So the first thing I want to talk about is the prompt, right? So the prompt right here is essentially just telling us that we are on our C drive, on the root directory, and the users directory in the Ryan directory, right? So what does that mean exactly? Well, if we open up our documents here, right, go back to this PC, what they're saying is we're on the C drive, so we go to the C drive, into the users folder, and to the Ryan's folder. And now we can see everything that's in here, right? That's all the stuff contained within the Ryan's folder. So to list the contents of a directory, we just type dir. And then it's going to show us everything that's contained and some information about the drive we're on. Up here, it's going to, first thing you're going to see is it's going to say volume in drive C is OS. So that's just essentially telling us that our operating system is contained on our C drive, which is our hard drive. Then it tells us the serial number associated with that hard drive. It tells us the directory that we're displaying, which is again the Ryan directory. And over here, this column, or this little row, is going to display the last date and time of file modification, or the last time you accessed the folder, or just any time, the last time you did anything to it really, whether it was you or the system. Then over here, it tells us if it's a directory. If it's a directory, you're going to see the less than, dir, greater than, right? And that tells us that this is a folder. Like for example, we can see here we have the desktop folder. Well, right here we also have the desktop folder, right? So, you know, that's all good and well. I'll tell you another little thing too. This right here, you might be wondering what the dots mean. The single dot just is a pointer that shows us that we are in the Ryan directory, right? That's just so the computer knows where we're at any given time. And the two dots mean the directory right above the Ryan directory, which is the user directory. Some people call that the parent directory, and the Ryan directory would be the child directory of users, right? So I'm going to show you another command, which is the change directory command. So if I was to type change directory, or cd, right, change directory, ... Now remember I just told you the ... is the refers to the directory right above us, which is users. So if I type that, it takes me to the users directory, which again is just this folder, right? It's the folder that contains the Ryan folder. So if I wanted to change directories back into Ryan, I could do that. Same thing as if I clicked on it over here. Now I'm in the Ryan directory. But that's all good and well, but what if I wanted to go, say, to the top of the hard drive? Well, just type cd root, right? The backslash means root. That means the very top of your file structure, right? So now we're in the root, and we'll type dir to see what's all in there. So now let's say I wanted to go all the way back to the Ryan directory. Well, I would do change directory, and then I'm going to type what's called an absolute path. An absolute path means the entire path that you need to take from the top of the root all the way to whatever folder you're trying to get to. So I tell it change directory into the C drive, then start at the root directory, then go to the users directory, then the Ryan directory, right? And then we could say, let's go to the desktop. So let's go to the desktop. So now I'm on my desktop. Now I'm right over here, right? So let's close this for a second. So now you can see we're on my desktop. So you can see everything. Shows you all the same folders that you're going to see in here and all the files. So let's say I wanted to create a new folder on my desktop, right? Well, the way I do that is make mk directory. Then the name, we'll call it test. We'll call it test folder, right? So as you can see, this just popped up, right? Right over here, test folder. Let's say I wanted to remove it, all right? So remove directory, test folder. That's remove, rm, and then dir. It's one word, and it's gone. Pretty cool. So that's all good and well, but what does it really matter, right? I mean, you can do all that stuff on the desktop and the graphical, user interface a whole lot faster than you can do it on here, and you don't have to learn all this crap. Well, I'm going to show you another really cool command. So let's type directory again. We have directory, and then we're going to use // question mark. And that's going to give us some more information about how we can use this command and really get the most out of it. And the first thing you're going to notice is it gives us a kind of just single sentence here right after we type the command. And it says displays a list of files and subdirectories in a directory. So that's just telling us kind of a summed up single sentence of what this command does and what we need to know about it. The next thing you're going to notice is right here we have another row that tells us some more information. Now the first thing we notice is this says the directory command. And you'll notice that unlike everything else in these two little rows here, this is the only thing that is not contained in little brackets here, right? Everything else is contained in brackets. Well, what that actually means is important because the brackets tell us that everything that is contained in brackets is optional. In other words, we don't have to type this for the directory command to execute, because the directory command can just be passed in on its own as we've been doing this whole time, right? We've just been typing dir, and then we get some output. And then we'll type cls to clear the screen, and we'll type dir /? to get back to where we were. Okay, so essentially it's saying we don't have to use this stuff, but here's the deal. This stuff can make us get a lot more specific with what kind of output we want it to get, right? So it's telling us the syntax. It's saying the first thing we need to do is type the directory command, then the drive, then the path, and the file name that we want it to list. Then we have all these different options to where we can list it, you know, either by attributes, or we can sort it in a particular way, or we can list it by when the last time it was created or modified or whatever. So let's try some of these out, right? So let's try the sorter. That's probably the most useful one, I would say. So what does this do? The /O, right? That's our option. That's called, some people call them switches, but I like to call them options. It really doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So we get a little single sentence here about what this little option does, right? And it lists by files in sorted order, right? And so if you'll notice up here, it has, this is kind of like a nested parameter of the option, right? This is a little colon, and it's just saying that if we're going to use the /O, then we need to precede that with a colon, and then whatever the option is for the sort order, right? It tells us the sort order down here. And then we've got all these different little things. So let me just kind of show you if I wanted to sort the contents of my desktop by name, right? Because right now it just kind of spews it all out there. So let's say I wanted to, we'll do it by extension because it looks like it's already alphabetized more or less. So we would say directory, then /O, then a colon, and then E for extension. And now you can see that it's sorted differently, right? It sorts everything by file extension instead of the way that it was just a moment ago up here, right? So you notice how everything's different? So that's just, you know, we can do directory /O colon N for name, and then it sorts it by name. CLS for clear the screen. So we can, you know, that's all great. We can now see that this is actually a pretty powerful command, and we can sort large amounts of files in a lot of different ways. So, you know, for the scope of this tutorial, sorting a few things on my desktop is probably not that impressive, but imagine if you were having to sort through, say, tens of thousands of files, you know, at a database job, or if you were somebody that's doing system administration, working with huge systems with just tons and tons of files. This would really make your life a whole lot easier knowing how to do this. So CLS for clear the screen. So let's look at another great command. So let's say we're on the command prompt and we're trying to figure something out and we don't really know the command we want to use. Well, what we can do is type help, H-E-L-P, help, and then hit enter, and then it's going to spew out kind of the standard library that is contained within command prompt. And what I mean by that is it's just going to show us some commands that are commonly used in command prompt and some things that they're not going to list every single command that is loaded into the environment, but it is going to list a lot of the workhorse commands and a lot of the just standard commands that kind of come preloaded in any environment. So let's take a look at some of these. Another one I'll show you guys is color, right? So it shows us the name of the command, color, and then a single sentence that sums up what the command does. And in this case, it says sets the default console foreground and background colors. Okay, well, let's get some more information about that because we want to learn more about color, right? So we'll do CLS to clear the screen, and then we'll do color followed by / question mark. Press any key to continue, press enter, and then now again we get a single sentence that sums up what the color command does, and then we get the syntax. So the syntax here is telling us the color command is not contained in brackets, so it's required, and then the attributes specifies color attribute of console output, ATTR stands for attribute. We're seeing that is an optional parameter, because while you can pass color in by itself, it's not going to do anything other than, I guess, set your error level to 1. So don't worry about that. That's outside the scope of this tutorial, but here's the deal. So we can type in color, and then it's background and text color, right? So if we want a black background, we'll pass in 0 because it tells us what colors we can choose from. 0 equals black, so a black background, and then we want light green text, so we'll pass in A, color 0A. And boom, right? So now we look like we're in the Matrix. Pretty cool. And then if we wanted to change that, we could do color, let's say, bright white, right? So CLS, clear the screen. And let's do help again. And I'm going to show you guys one more command. Let's see. I'm going to show you guys the task list command because that's a pretty useful one too. So let's see, we find task list, and then it says here's our task list command, and then display all currently running tasks including services, right? So we just type task list followed by / question mark, get the information we want about it, and then in this case I'm just going to run it because it can be run on its own. And then what this is going to do is, if you're familiar with the Task Manager, that's essentially what this is, right? We can click down here, go to Task Manager, and this is what we're looking at. This is the command prompt equivalent of this, right? We can go to services here. We got services, it's showing us all that stuff. It's showing us our processes, and it's showing us the image name, which is the name of the executable file, because what this is actually showing us is all of our system processes, right? So we've got services, and the difference between a service and a process is actually fairly simple, I'd like to think. A process is just anything that is an executable file, and a service is something that is also an executable file, but it's not really something you can open up and manage. It's like a background process. So but I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of beyond the scope of the tutorial. So we'll clear the screen. And the last thing I'm going to show you is just how to exit out of the command prompt. So all you have to do is just type exit and then hit enter. And that's it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll probably make some more of these in the future if people like them. So thanks.